Part 4 of Policy and Rules and Regulations. In this section, we will cover using the restaurant's phone, cell phone use policy, house rules, grounds for immediate termination, issues you must report to the manager, behaviors to avoid, voluntary resignation policies. Now let's talk about our rules regarding using the restaurant's phone. The restaurant's phone is for business-related calls. You must not receive personal phone calls at the restaurant, except with prior management approval or for an emergency situation. Please inform your friends and family of this rule. If you need to make an emergency call, it must be approved by the manager. Incoming calls are to be taken the following way. Take the name, the callback number, and a brief message. Then make sure that it makes it to the hands or desk of the appropriate person. Barney's Gourmet Hamburger Cell Phone Use Policy. Use of personal mobile phones, smartphones, tablets, etc. during work hours is prohibited, except while on an approved 10-minute break or meal break that must be off premises. All employees must store mobile devices in secure areas, not in an apron, by the tip jar, or back pocket, and mute ringers while on company premises. Here is some of Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers' house rules. All employees are required to maintain a current telephone number on file. Employees are not permitted to have friends or family members visiting during the shift unless they are guests in the restaurant. Customers are not allowed to go behind the counter or in the kitchen at any time. Employees are required to park their cars on side streets nearby and leave the more convenient parking spaces for the guests. There is to be no eating or drinking in the front of the house at any time. Food is only to be eaten during management-approved breaks in appropriately designated areas. As with any restaurant company, there are behaviors that will not be tolerated. Here are some of the grounds for immediate termination. Harassment, including sexual harassment. Theft of any kind. Use, possession, or being under the influence of alcohol or a controlled substance during the shift. Supplying false or misleading information to the restaurant on the application. Clocking another employee in or out, or having another employee clock you in or out. Leaving the job before your scheduled time without the approval of management. Disorderly or indecent conduct. Failure to follow management direction. The following are issues you must report to the manager. Report all customer complaints, suggestions, or extraordinary requests. Any faulty equipment or unsafe conditions. Any missing equipment or shortage of tools, utensils, smallwares, etc. Unfair denial of rest or meal breaks. Any employee on the premises seemingly under the influence of alcohol or a controlled substance. Any theft. Any accidents. Any injuries. Or harassment, including sexual harassment. Here are a few behaviors to avoid in order to be a successful employee at Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers. Ignoring a customer, especially if you make a mistake. Showing the guests you are in a bad mood. Taking things personally and holding a grudge against a guest or a fellow employee. Blaming others for your mistakes. Not following the uniform and appearance standard. Chatting with other employees or using cell phones while guests need attention. Appearing to be just hanging out or lingering around. Chewing gum. Maintaining a personal or lengthy conversation at a table. clocking in before you are ready and in appropriate uniform. Now let's discuss our grace period. We give our guests a 10-minute window to arrive after closing, provided the grill is still on and we still have active guests in the restaurant. Active guests are those still ordering or who might still place an order. Remember that last-minute customers are not intentionally late. They wanted to come to Barney's before we close, but they just arrived late. Please note, if we do have a grace period situation, always double-check with the kitchen and confirm that they are still able to cook food for our customers. The last thing we want to cover is rules regarding employee transfers to other Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers locations and voluntary resignation. If an employee transfers locations, Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers will not guarantee that the same position with the same compensation will be available at the other location. If you quit without giving 2 weeks' notice, or your employment was terminated by Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers, you are not eligible to work for another location. Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers reserves the right to request that an employee change to another location. Voluntary resignation policy. Employees who wish to resign for personal reasons are expected to give 2 weeks' notice. If you wish to work for another location of Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers, your employment will be conditional on the approval of the manager of the original location. A longer notice period would be advisable and appreciated. Giving notice in a timely manner will benefit you in many ways. Here are a couple. Our positive reference will help your career. You will always be welcome to rejoin us. That concludes our policies, rules, and regulations. We hope this training helps you perform your duties and be a successful part of the team here at Barney's Gourmet Hamburgers. You will now be directed to take a short quiz on the material we just covered. Good luck!